So today what we got going on is we are continuing to make progress on this beautiful Cadillac Fleetwood 75 series, 9-seater, absolute beast, over 20 feet from front to back. What we're doing today is we are wrapping up the air ride system. I need to do custom bars. I need to put shocks in the front. That is going to be difficult to figure out. We need to put shocks in the rear. That should be pretty easy. So if you're new around here and not familiar with this beast that I call the LAC, I got this in a series of trades. I had a 1994 OBS F250 with the utility bed on it. It was pretty solid. Diesel 7.3 IDI. It was a truck that I was going to build on my channel, but then I thought to myself, I don't know, let me see what somebody might want to trade. So on Marketplace, I found this one. The dude was looking to trade for a truck. I had a truck that I was looking to get rid of, and the rest is history. So at this point, we've already made some decent progress, and we're not going to slow down anytime soon. Let's get started.
And now, you're watching the Peanut Butter and Jelly, Whiskey and Bad Decisions, Tender and Regret, Florida and Chaos, and Honda and El Camino. Hit that link down below to get in there while you still can for the pre-sale channel of YouTube. Welcome to Bodie Vision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me yet again on another video. So I just wanted to remind you really quickly, hit that link down below to check out the El Chapo, the Honda Mino giveaway we got going on. Pre-sale is right now. Once we finish the entire car, we will move into kicking off the entire thing, but they are selling out quickly. So if you wanted an opportunity to get in there, go ahead and do that while you can. So let's move on to the Cadillac. First thing I want to do is get some custom traction bars in here. So it comes factory with these traction bars, but this is just meant to mount to that lower swing arm, and it doesn't have a huge range of motion because it's just meant to be at one height, have a little bit of suspension travel, which this bushing can take. Like, it comes up and down, this bushing moves, but ultimately this does not have the range of motion that we would need for an air ride application. So we are going to ditch this guy here, which isn't very adjustable, for a fully adjustable custom Heim joint link setup. We have these two right here. I have a total of 4 of these. Now one side is left hand thread, one side is right hand thread, so that way we can make it shorter or taller if we need to. I have 4 of these guys, 2 of the left hand, 2 of the right hand, also with the jam nuts and everything. So as I'm putting these together, I really need to make sure that I'm welding a left-handed bung on one side and a right bung on the other side. Blah, blah, blah. Let me not bore you with all of the boring details. We have this side cut off. We need to get that side cut off, and then we will go into making these links, get them bolted up, and then move on to whatever else we need to do on this beautiful day in Florida. So now that we have my link with the left-handed thread on one side, right-handed thread on the other, and what that means and why that is important is because as both of these ends are held together, if we twist this one way, it'll get longer. If we twist it the other way, it'll get shorter. If you had both left-hand threads or both right-hand threads, it would just move from one to another or get longer on the left side as it climbs up the right side, or climbs up the right side as it gets shorter on the left side. So you want to make sure you have a left hand and a right hand threaded end link. So we got here two in the same. We got this one. I just welded out this one so it's a little bit more warm. So we are going to use this one for fitment because this is what I welded out secondly, and they are the exact same size. So we want to figure out where our brackets need to go, and how we are going to do that is by mocking it up. So let's go ahead, get that mocked up. I want to put it exactly where the old one was because that's how the guys at GM back in the late 60s, that's how they had it set up. So I'm not redesigning anything like crazy. We're just going to weld these little weld-in tabs in the exact same location of where everything was, and it should have a lot more travel, and that's what we're looking for. Adjustability, which there was not before. Well, there was a little bit on one side in the rubber, but we need adjustability. We have good adjustability, and we will have phenomenal travel. Alright, so now that we have the links welded together and painted and those are solid and ready, we have one problem. These are the tabs that I used. This is the inside of the Heim joint over here. We have a discrepancy in size, and I don't want to open these up like crazy because we don't need monster bolts for these, but I wanted these to be a little bit beefy. But we are going to go with a bolt that's more appropriate for this guy right here. So I have these sleeves that'll go inside those joints to kind of step down from 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch, and that fits in there perfectly like this. Pretty self-explanatory, and then that fits in there really nicely. So that brings these two guys to the same exact size. So now we don't have to compromise the bracket and make the hole a lot larger. Really, it's going to be all good. So let's go ahead and get these thrown in for the final time. Then we will move into the trunk and doing the rest of this install. Now what we need to do is we need to get the trunk temporarily set up, and I say temporarily because the entire trunk is going to be built out with the false floor. That way the lines can go right underneath into the false floor, and it's going to be carpeted. But I look at that as the finishing phase. So we're kind of putting everything together right now. I want it to work so that way I can move the car around. Then once the car is fully painted and then done, then we can come back and do the finishing phase. So we're kind of doing like a all the way but kind of loose mock-up, if that makes any sense. So let's go ahead and look at the trunk, and I'll give you a little tip and trick along the way. So if you can see back here, we have the tanks. We have two tanks, which is essentially going to be one tank because it is going to be put together, turning two tanks into one, if that makes any sense, because it's one air unit. So we have all of these quarter 90s. We have 1, 2, 3 right there, and 4. They are all going to be sitting in a way that makes sense for the car. So this is the front right, this is the back right. I like back because BR would be back right. I don't like RR because then you get confused with right and rear. So then we have over here back left and front left. So I ran 5 1/4-inch lines from the back all the way to the front, 1 for each bag, so that's 4, and then the additional one is going to be for tank pressure. I like to keep an eye on what my tanks are at. So if for any reason my tanks keep going, I need to go ahead and kill the entire system, or if I see that they're not charging when it's getting lower than 155, 165, I know that we have a problem. So it's just another gauge for monitoring. So I just ran a quantity of 5 1/4-inch lines. Now I'm not keeping track of which one is which, but now I need to figure out which one is which, so that way we can keep it all together, because my switches are going to be corresponding with the front left, front right, rear left, rear right, or back left, back right. So we need to keep track of these things, but I don't know which is which right now, and I'm here by myself. If you're not by yourself, you can shoot some air through it, but if you are, you can hook up this valve that I made, and I'm going to send just a little bit of air out. So if I have that going, then I come around to the front of the car, I can figure out which one air is coming out of. And then here we go, right here. That's without a doubt mine that's back there. So now I will be able to identify. If I put this one in the trunk in the front left, I can come up to the switch and hook it up to the one that is going to be for the front left. So we have front left, front right, rear left, rear right. And we also have red for right with the needles, black for left, just because that's how I like it. So this is going to be for the front. We have front red is front right, front black is front left, and we have the same for the rear, black, red. So now that I'm able to identify which line needs to go where, we need to connect the dots at the very end, finalize this thing, and let's get this thing to eventually lay out and air up on its own rather than being connected to the shop. Alright, so now that I am running these lines, I wanted to show you how truly simple this setup is and why I really love using paddle valves, just having it all mechanical. This is a cheaper way to do it, but I also prefer it because you don't have to run any electric whatsoever besides the relays for the compressor and then the pressure switch. But as far as the bags goes, it is super simple, and I drew it out for you. So we have right here a nice professional drawing. Here is the tanks, here's the supply line, front left, right, back left, back right. These all go to the switches for the supply. The supply is at the bottom. And then once you hit the switch, it sends air up this way, that way, that way, that way for each one. Now as you come over, we have a T which goes to the gauge, and then that line continues over to one of the bags. This one, the same thing, comes over there to a T to the other gauge. This one over there to a T to that gauge. This one over here and a T to that gauge. At the end of all of the T's, we are going to the bags themselves, make it nice, super simple and easy. So that on the desk is how it looks drawn out, but for physical running you could change it up a little bit if you would like. For example, I opted to use these push-on Y fittings, so that way it would kind of keep everything in line. A T makes it go 90 degrees out. That would be really good if you had a bunch of room behind your gauges where you can run your gauges straight to the lines. I did not have much room, so I opted to have all of these junctions on the floor, so that way there are 2 hoses, and then it eventually goes to 1 for the bag. One of the hoses is from the switch, one of the hoses comes back to the gauge. So hopefully that makes it nice, simple and easy for you. Let's get back to work. So now that all of the air system is completely ran, let's do a little bit of a pre-check before we move on to electrical. So let's see right here, we don't have air yet, but what I can do is I can shoot air to the tanks, and this is being shot to the tanks through the gauge. This is going to be for the gauge, but that's just going to the tank for now. So we have the gauges right here. This should be for the front left, that should be black. Let's go ahead and check. We got movement on the black one. That looks good. This is front right. That should be the red one on the same gauge. So the gauge on the left is for the front. Now we got back left right here should be black. And we have back right should be red. So what I want to do is get them all set to around the same value. I'll just put them all maybe at around 100 psi or so. And really the thing is, even if I completely disconnect and all of the air from the tank drains out 100%, everything right now is being held back by the switches. So everything in the bags needs to stay in the bags so long as we are not leaking at those T-fittings that go to the gauge. And if they are, we will see. So now that we have all the lines and everything is solid, and dude, look at this big block thing. 472 Chevy big block, one of the last great big blocks before they got all choked up. I heard if you put a cam and supporting mods in the head, you could make 500-600 horsepower out of this thing. Will we go down that route? I don't know. So the next thing I want to focus on now is let's get the shocks going in this thing. The rears, I ripped out the old air shocks, and I'm just going to be putting conventional or traditional gas shocks in there because we have the air ride suspension, so we don't need to stack up double air style. So the rear is going to be easy. The front, I'm going to have to fabricate some stuff because the strut or shock used to come up the center where the airbag is now. So let's figure something out so that way we can get this thing to lay out and to not bounce around like crazy. I know a lot of guys skip shocks on the front when they're doing air ride stuff. I'm trying to not do that. I want this thing to be as good as possible. Pretty good. That HTP welder is always killing it. Come out. Okay, go ahead. All right, hold on. Okay, tap it again. Yep, again. One more. Okay, hold on. All right, so we got the front knocked out now. The first side, which I actually did the passenger side first, that took me hours. I actually spent a day and a half messing around with it, trying to just do different options, trying to put the shock over here, over there. Once I finally liked it, then the control arm collided with it once we aired out. And then I put it somewhere else where it was good for the control arm. So where I ended up putting it actually worked out really nicely, although it was a struggle to get there. So not a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people understand that cars have shocks, and I mean, it's kind of like the basics, but a lot of people don't necessarily understand why you have shocks and what exactly they do. So what a shock does is it eliminates crazy movement. Like, it doesn't let anything happen too extremely fast, and it also eliminates rebound. So if you can see right here on the Cadillac, I'll just start with one hand and we could just get going crazy. So if you hit a speed bump, the car would be doing this forever. Not forever, but just for a ways. Or if you're going down the highway and you hit a bridge and then you hit the other side of the bridge, before you know it, the thing is just going to be bouncing crazy. So shocks completely eliminate that. So the front is going to be really good now that we got shocks there. Now the rears, we just have some gas shocks to go in the OEM location. So let's get those knocked out. So like I suspected, pretty simple and easy install for the shocks for the rear. Now let's do that one-handed test. You can hear I'm denting the trunk. I mean, it's not staying, but I can't do what I was doing before, or pushing it on the trunk. If I really get into it, I mean, I can get it going, but then it stops pretty quickly. So that's just a huge difference and a really good representation to see what shocks are doing and why you need shocks. It'd be kind of cool to run them without. You'd be driving along and then 10 minutes later, you'd say, dude, this sucks. So I want to make it run right. And I think we are super solid. So let's go ahead and air this thing out, and then we can air it back up on its own. I don't need to worry about running air from the shop to get it up anymore, because we're not having problems getting up around here. Bro, and I want to pull it up over here next to the Fox Body Mustang, so that way we can get kind of a cool, funny size comparison of this thing. It's not even gonna fit in the full frame. Let me see. It's maybe the best that we can do. Now let's air this thing out. Woo! Is the lack lacking, or are you lacking? Oh, we are right on the floor. Dude, I love this thing. At least the Mustang's taller than this thing at this point. If you don't know about that Mustang, wide body Mustang that was built in the early 90s. It was actually in a magazine in the early 90s, Super Ford, February of 1991. We're going to get to that eventually. I plan on bringing that thing back to its former glory. Right now it is just on ice on the side of the house. So be looking forward to that. But this thing, dude, how sick. Bro, I gotta do some walk around shots of this thing. Gangster is the only way that I can describe it. I love this Cadillac. Bro, this is a car that I absolutely cannot wait to hit the streets with, man. I'm gonna pick up my kid from school, and I mean 10 of her friends, if she wanted to have them all ride, they could all fit in here if they wanted to. This thing laid out, we got the shocks working in the front. That was a challenge, but we got through it. We made it happen. Got the shocks in the rear. That's all good. That wasn't too hard, but it all makes me excited to look at this thing laid out, working properly like it should. And also, really quickly, I wanted to shout out to BC Fab. That is the company that I got the kit from. I want to support the people that are supporting the channel. And if you would like to support me and you would like to support the channel, go ahead and hit the link down below to get entered in that El Camino Honda body swap giveaway that I got going on. We have seats on the way. I have a video coming up really soon on that where we should be wrapping up the entire thing. We also have to hit the dyno. I know a lot of you guys were asking for rollers before you wanted to enter because you were thinking, does the vehicle even work? So I got a lot of that stuff to come, but it works. It's a good vehicle. So get in there, hit the link while you still can, while we are still on pre-sale. I think what I'm gonna do right now, think about what I have to do next on this thing, get that figured out, and of course show you everything along the way. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all of your support. Like this video, comment, subscribe, do all this stuff. You know what it is, YouTube. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.